It's summer, which means I am working on my iPad OS walkthrough. This is the biggest video I do all year long. It basically takes up my whole summer, and I spend pretty much all of July just doing writing and research. Because of this, I think I have some interesting workflows, apps, and some automations I want to share with you all. This video is sponsored by Monday.com. Let's get into it. iPadOS 26 addressed so many issues I had with the iPad that I am back on it as my full-time writing, research, and admin workflow machine. Now, I'm still doing some creative work on the Mac just because it's been really hard for me to give up that full Final Cut Pro experience, but I'm kind of slowly moving some stuff back over to the iPad after my stint on the Mac. I'm going to have more to say about iPadOS 26 when the public beta comes out, but the very quick high-level overview, it's perfection. Okay, so the first part of my iPad setup here is I have completely replaced Google Search. I've been using the ChatGPT web search as my main search engine. They added a web search feature to ChatGPT a little while ago and it has been incredibly handy to use. Now, ChatGPT isn't one of the supported web search providers. If you go into settings, Safari, search engines, it's not in that list there. But ChatGPT has an iOS and iPadOS app that also has a Safari extension bundled into it. If you enable this extension, it will actually take over the search bar for Safari. Anything you type that isn't a URL will automatically kick over to the ChatGPT web search. Now, an interesting feature about this is it's just hijacking that search bar. So it's actually doing whatever your default search provider is first, and then taking that and going over to ChatGPT. But it's incredibly fast and you don't even notice it. But if you hit the back button, it'll go back to your previous search provider. I really like the ChatGPT search results. It gives you a ton of sources that I personally click on. I want the original source. But it also gives you the ability to follow up and kind of refine your search because you can chat with it just like you can with any AI chatbot. And with the Safari extension, I can just keep my habit of, typing a search query right in the URL bar of Safari. I don't want to break that habit because I've been doing that for, I honestly have no idea. Ever since, web browsers started allowing you to do that feature probably 2 decades ago. This was incredibly helpful outside of my normal workflow. I've been playing Tears of the Kingdom. In fact, I just finished it. I don't know why I didn't finish it originally, but it was incredibly useful for whenever I'd come across a shrine or a puzzle or something that I just wasn't quite sure how to solve. I could just, type it all right in there and it would give me a ton of different sources on how to solve that and I could jump right into them. It was really fantastic. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the way Google is shoving their AI search results right at the top of all their search queries now, and I personally don't find their AI search results to be that good. I get a lot of misinformation a lot of the time, and they bury the sources. So I'm just really not a fan of the direction Google is going with this stuff right now. I'd much rather have something like ChatGPT where, yes, it does give me a bit of a summary or answers the question that I'm looking for, but it also gives me a ton of sources, so I can expand on that information if I want. This video is sponsored by Monday.com. Monday.com is a platform where you and your team can work together and stay organized. Monday.com has a bunch of different functions built into it, including a collaborative task manager where you can assign tasks and track projects, set up Gantt charts and timelines, calendar views, access shared files, and a whole lot more. I set up a whole workspace in Monday.com and I was shocked how simple and easy it was to use. A lot of times big collaborative platforms can feel bloated and they just aren't easy to navigate or set up. With Monday.com, I was able to have all of my projects laid out in a Kanban view. This is especially helpful in the summer since I'm working on long-term projects. Everything I needed to track for my work is in one place. Monday.com also has a powerful automation platform built right in. You can automate tasks based on status so that it changes groups or notifies someone. There's other automation triggers like when an item is created, button is clicked, if a person is assigned to a task, and a whole lot more. There is a lot you can automate in here. Plus, you can connect Monday.com to other apps like Google Drive, Zoom, Gmail, and more. Plus, those platforms can hook into your automations. This way, your workflow is seamlessly connected. Monday.com has a bunch of different AI features built into it. including the ability to auto-assign projects to the right people, extract information from a document and add it to your database, categorize information automatically, plus more features like summarize and translate. If I was ever to expand my business and I decided to work with other people, it would be extremely easy to share this project database with other people. With Monday.com, working is efficient and easy. Everything is really well organized and the visual layout is extremely helpful. Go check out Monday.com. I'm going to put some links in the description below so you can go try it out for free today. My thanks to Monday.com for sponsoring this video. I still do want Google sometimes. It was recently my girlfriend's birthday and I was setting up a reservation at her favorite restaurant and I just needed the hours of the business and the phone number. And honestly, Google is just better at that because it has it right there in the card. I don't feel I need to jump to like an original source website for that information. So what I did is I set up the app xSearch. This is another Safari extension. What this does is it allows you to set up shortcuts for searching websites like Amazon, YouTube, Wikipedia, all sorts of those different things. Well, in here, I set up a shortcut for searching Google. So what I do now is if I want to do a Google search and not a ChatGPT search, is I type the letter G first and then type my search query. That forces it to go to Google. But if I don't type in that G and I just type in the search query, it goes to ChatGPT. This is a really nice way of quickly jumping between the two. Where I do all my writing is an app called Obsidian. Now, I have made a few videos about Obsidian already, so I'm not going to repeat myself with how I have it set up and the extensions and themes and all that stuff that I use. I'll link those videos in the description below so you can check them out if you want, along with everything else I mentioned. What is new is my research folder has a few subfolders in it. I now have an iOS, iPadOS, macOS, and visionOS 26 folders. These are the 4 OSs I'm focused on covering this summer. In here, I dump all the tidbits I find about those OS updates. Anything from design changes with liquid glass to features and keyboard shortcuts, you name it, I dump all that stuff that I come across in here. Now, where these folders get interesting is how I add content to them. I have a new version of my CaptureCut shortcut. In the past, if I'd run the shortcut, write a note, it would just dump it right into this folder called Quick Note. But what I realized very early on in the summer, pretty much while I was still at Apple Park at WWDC, is this folder became completely unwieldy with all the stuff that I was finding. There's so much in these OS updates, especially iPadOS. And what was happening was this folder was getting so full that all my non-software OS updates information was getting mixed in here, and I was kind of losing track of like the non-OS update notes that I still needed. So I made a new version of this shortcut. This version of CaptureCut relies on the new use model action in the 26 OS updates. So this won't work on older versions of the OS that aren't the iOS, iPadOS 26 version. What this does is it takes a look at the context of the note. If it has anything to do with the 4 OS updates I mentioned, it creates a tag in the note. Then there is a text action that combines the tag and the note together. If the note has nothing to do with any of those updates, the shortcut will save the note to the Quick Note folder like always. But if the note does have something to do with one of those updates, it adds a tag, and then it moves it to the correct corresponding folder automatically. What it does is it just looks at the last line of the note. That's where I'm inserting that tag. And then it just looks to see, okay, is there one of those 4 tags there? And then it just moves it to that corresponding folder. Now, you could always just manually tag your notes. You could just type the hashtag or pound symbol and then write whatever you wanted and then just have a bunch of if statements nested like I do and some move actions. But I know me. I know I'm going to forget to manually add those tags. I know I'll get lazy and I won't want to manually add those tags. This way, that step is just taken off my plate. I don't have to worry about that. The computer is handling that for me. Now, this version of CaptureCut does all the same things as the original version of CaptureCut does. If you like the get what's on screen option, that is in here as well. So if you have a Safari page open, it'll add that URL via a markdown link to your note, and it'll add the title and all that stuff. So it's really nice. Now, I will link this shortcut in the description below, but because of the nature of Obsidian, it's going to require some heavy modifying. So you're going to need to go in and point it towards your vault. You're going to need it to point it towards your folders. You'll have to change the tags to be whatever you want them to be. So this will take a bit of work on your part to get set up. I'm sorry, there's just not a way for me to make a general version that works for everyone. Now, I will say, before I get any comments, this shortcut could be a bit more streamlined, but I built it on top of my already existing CaptureCut shortcut. One of these days, I'll probably go back and rebuild it from the ground up. That way it's a bit more streamlined, but it still runs plenty fast enough, so I'm not too worried about it. I absolutely love how this shortcut is working for me. It's helping me keep my notes organized, but I can still quickly capture a non-OS related note and have it go into that quick notes folder. And this just means that folder doesn't become unwieldy. It stays streamlined and slimmed down, and I'm not too worried about like losing important pieces of information because I have 50 plus notes in this one folder. Another change to my setup is I am using NetNewsWire right now as my RSS client. RSS is a big part of how I do my research. I read blogs, newsletters, YouTube videos, all of that for me comes in via RSS. Now, I was using the app Fiery Feeds, and it's a very good app, but there's a bug in the current version of iPadOS 26, and I'm not sure if it's Fiery Feeds or iPadOS 26, but basically the keyboard shortcuts just stop responding after a period of time. It's a beta bug. I'm not stressing about it. It's not the end of the world. It'll get fixed, but I navigate through my RSS client via the arrow keys on the keyboard. Like, that's how I primarily jump through things. So that not working was kind of very frustrating. So I've jumped over to NetNewsWire for right now. Now, I will probably end up jumping back to Fiery Feeds because Fiery Feeds has excellent shortcuts actions. And with this new use model feature, native apps that have that find feature, that find action in shortcuts is going to be incredibly handy because you're going to be able to combine that and the use model to be able to do custom filtering, which will be really handy. Plus, you can build even more on top of that. This use model can output shortcuts variables, so there is a lot you can do with it. RainDrop.io is another app I've been using for a while, but I'm really doubling down on it this summer. This is a place where I just put all my links. Stuff I want to check out for the channel or the podcast, apps I want to cover, articles I want to read or reference, YouTube videos I want to watch. What I like about this app is it's just a simple list app with folders and tags built into it. Now, it has bigger and more impressive features, but honestly, what I really just want is a place to store URLs and for me to be able to organize them. When you add something to the app, it pulls the title, it pulls the header image, it pulls thumbnails, it does all sorts of stuff just to put it in that card view. Now, I've tried doing this in Obsidian in the past, and it does technically work, but Obsidian is a text editor. It's not something with a table view layout. It's really just meant for text. So you can absolutely build something like this in Obsidian, but you kind of come up to the edge cases of Obsidian because it's just not technically meant for that kind of thing. And so that's why I've just like, you know, I will take an app that's dedicated to storing links, to storing URLs, and just it does a really good job at it. With RainDrop.io, there is a share sheet extension. With it, you can manually add tags or put stuff into the proper folder, which is exactly what I want. I probably could build a shortcut that does the tagging and folders automatically based on the context, kind of like what I'm doing with CaptureCut now. Maybe that's something I should look into this summer. So that's it. That is kind of my summer iPad setup right now. I want to hear from you all. How are you using your iPads this summer? Are you working on any big projects? Let me know in the comments below. I want to hear from you all. Be sure to go check out Monday.com today. Links in the description below. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't already, and have a great day.